you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified of all future uploads, and check the description box below the video for important links and information. How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. I've talked before about my feelings on fear-mongering type videos and just constantly berating everyone with doom and gloom and bad news, but things really are starting to heat up when it comes to the situation with our economy. And like I've mentioned before, this doesn't mean we're going to descend into some Mad Max apocalyptic scenario, but it does mean that things are going to change. And they're getting worse in terms of the economic stability and prosperity of our country, specifically when it comes to the cost of living and the availability of goods. I talked in a video only a few weeks ago about how the government really has the wolf by the ears, so to speak, when it comes to the situation with payments and inflation. They really cannot go back on inflation. This is a one-way street to a complete currency melt-up, and we're seeing more and more evidence of that by the day. I just saw an article that's making its way around about how the Social Security is getting the biggest cost of living adjustment in 39 years, a 5.9% boost in benefits for 2022. That is nowhere near enough even to make up for the actual cost of living that we're seeing in a lot of areas. Like I mentioned in a recent video, depending on where you are in the country, your rents may go up as high as 20 to 23% in just the past year alone. Take a look at gas prices. Take a look at the recent prices of beef. They're, as Gregory Mannarino predicted ways back, they are trying to mask these inflationary price increases by blaming it on supply chain issues. Now, that's not to say that the supply chain issues aren't also occurring. We know for a fact that they are. But the main reason for a lot of these price increases and problems to begin with is rooted in the inflation. And I actually, speaking of supply chain issues, it's starting to get openly recognized and spoken about by the companies themselves. You've heard a lot of preppers making videos about how Augustin, I think it's just Augustin Farms company that makes long-term food storage products is actually, well, at first, I think Canadian Prepper came out and talked about how he'd gotten a letter saying that they are anticipating disruptions, and now apparently they're going on a 90-day furlough for the company because they just can't fill orders anymore, so they're having to wait. That's pretty significant for a business to do that. I'll insert a picture here of a grocery store that I saw recently. This was actually back in Florida, where they're posting signs saying limited availability due to supplier production issues. And this wasn't a hasty handmade sign. These were professionally printed signs that they obviously expect to have to use more than once in the ongoing future. And it means that they think that this isn't going to go away anytime soon, and also means that it's prevalent enough to justify making some of these official signs, not just going to be for one or two products here and there. Interesting that they would call it supplier production issues. That obviously can encompass a lot of things. We know there's shipping delays. We know that there's actual problems getting parts, and just these are why we prep in the first place, because our modern system is so fragile because of how complex it is. When you have a chain of production, supply, distribution, transportation, that each step relies on a bunch of highly technological, highly complicated, highly fragile processes, there's a lot of bottlenecks. And we're seeing things like entire sectors of the economy be affected because a company that makes one part for a big truck transmission is having issues. And that's a cascading failure. And then that causes bottlenecks of supplies, like we're seeing ships in the port. When things do finally come back online, everyone tries to order at once. So there really are supply chain issues, but that is being also blamed for problems that are caused by inflation. Obviously, a 5.9% boost, biggest in over almost 40 years, is not a supply chain issue. And the fact that they're coming out and admitting that inflation is over 5% means in reality, what you're seeing on the ground is probably more like 10 or 15%. I haven't heard John Williams of ShadowSats chime in anytime recently on some of these interviews. I'd be interested to see what his current estimation of the inflation is, because I remember he was saying the real rate of inflation was, over 10% back when they were claiming it was 2%, 3%, 1%, something like that. So obviously, like I mentioned in my video a few weeks ago, you can't come back from this. You're not going to undo a massive cost of living adjustment, and they can't do it. Like I said, they got the wolf by the ears. They have to keep printing money. That's why inflation is the only way out of this. Doesn't matter if it's going to be 10, 20% a year or 2,000% a year. I mean, obviously it matters, but the point is it's going to be inflation. The things you need to do to protect yourself from that are the same, regardless of whether it's 20% or 2,000%. I would say the only major difference is the latter. The more it skews towards the high end of hyperinflation, the safer you are with debts. But this type of inflation is going to eliminate debt for the most part anyway. So I would counsel people to, I mean, obviously I can't give financial advice, but my opinion is that if you can get unsecured debt, or even secured debt for that matter,
strike that, reverse it. This way, please.
It's going to be pretty safe as long as you can handle the payments. And you don't want to put yourself in a position where you can't make the payments, because then all sorts of things can happen. But like a mortgage, like I've talked about how I recently bought a house that I think is overpriced, but we can make the payments. We already have seen the effects of rents going up beyond what the payment is, even though it was slightly more than our rent when I got the place 6 months ago. And that's going to happen with all sorts of stuff. So I definitely think it's time. I've been saying this for months. I definitely think it's time for people to buy as much as they can of what they need that's going to last, that you're going to use anyway. Don't go ham and buy a bunch of stuff that you just want, but stuff that you need that's shelf stable. There's no way that these prices and supply chain issues, the price increases and supply chain issues, are going to go away over the next 12 to 24 months completely anyways. In fact, my opinion is they're going to get much, much worse. So anything you can buy now, you're saving yourself at least, I mean, according to the government, you're saving yourself 5+%. According to me, you're probably saving yourself 10 to 20%. And that's if you can even get it. Obviously, if you can't get it, having bought it earlier is a good thing regardless of the price. And I think that is going to happen. We've seen stores, like I said, this picture. That was my personal experience. I haven't seen the kinds of supply issues in terms of availability that other people are reporting, like the problems. I've seen a lot of people post pictures of just pretty much bare shelves. I haven't seen that in my area. I didn't see it when I went back to Florida recently, other than, compared to historically in the United States, where you can go into a store at any point, any time of year, and get whatever you want. It's worse than that. There will be some things that are a little bit, shelves aren't completely full. One little thing may be out, but I haven't yet noticed massive issues with getting, with availability. It's just price increases for now, but it's coming. Obviously, if they wouldn't print these signs, if they didn't think that they were going to be using them, which is kind of scary. So just stock up. It's not going to turn into the end of the world, but we're just on a slow descent to no longer being the premier first world country. We're going to have all these sorts of little crappy issues that other countries have been dealing with throughout, mankind's history. And it's time to prepare for that. Get with the stuff that you need. Put all the money that you aren't actually spending in things that are in asset classes that are going to be protected from inflation, whether that's real estate, whether that's precious metals and other commodities, ammunition, cryptocurrencies, and even stocks. I think are obviously more protected than the US dollar in the terms of significant inflation. I do think that in the next couple of years, we're likely to see a significant stock market correction / crash. Don't know when that could be. Follow the Gregory Mannarina's channel for much more insightful updates on that. But even he says you can't know. There's people out here like Kiyosaki and others who are predicting it, trying to predict it to the month, saying there's going to be a massive stock market correction this month. Some people are going to be right eventually when it does happen, but it's just because they guessed. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, and don't forget you can support yourself and this channel by checking out rulethewastelandstore.com, where we have an ever-increasing amount of survival and preparedness gear, including one of the best survival fishing kits on the market.